Yo, hey guys, it's SmallmouthCrush. So MLF bought FLW. That's the big news of the day. So I want to make a video to talk about it, talk about my thoughts on the whole merger, the whole buyout, as well as focus on my future as an angler who's fished on the FLW side and what to do for next year. Because I'm still not sure. Maybe you guys can help me out. That's all coming up. Well, I opened Facebook this morning. First thing I saw, MLF acquires FLW, which we kind of knew was going on. Been a lot of rumors the last really year now. It's even more confusing today as an angler that fishes the FLW side about the future of the sport and how are things going to look. So I wanted to take some time to explain my viewpoints, my opinions. They may be a lot different than yours, but I wanted to just have an open conversation about it. And in the comments below, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on the whole situation. But I want to talk about what's going on in the industry right now as far as the tournament scene. I want to talk about my past season fishing the FLW, BFLs as well as Costas, and what are some of the options? What do I see moving forward for myself? And what direction do I want to take? It's a little premature because I am not sure, but at the same time, maybe we can work through this together, and you guys can help me, with the comments on this video to figure out what to do. Let's talk about what's going on right now on the pro level side. The three major tours that were going on. The MLF, the FLW Tour, as well as the Bassmaster Elite Series. So at the beginning of the year, we all know that a bunch of the major players in the sport left Bass for the MLF. And I was hoping that the MLF was going to be like the real deal. In my mind, it just hasn't lived up to expectations yet. I sort of stopped following professional bass fishermen. After all the big names left the elites, I really felt like I'm not really interested in the Elite Series anymore. The way that they allowed anglers to fish this year in the Elite Series, we have anglers that have never been able to qualify through the Opens to fish an Elite event, the right way through points, now are just let in. We have anglers that have never fished a BASS event prior to the Elite Series being left in because there was an internal, there was a struggle with the organizations in grabbing the top guys and filling spots. And so what you had in my mind for the Bassmaster Elite Series this year, there was some big names that stayed, no doubt, but for the most part it was just a glorified Opens tour, and that's what I felt. And so I didn't really pay much attention to the Elite side. However, towards the end of the season, I actually started watching some of the live feed and following a little bit more. And that led me to the conclusion, at least in my opinion, I feel that the Bassmaster Elite Series is the place to be on the pro side moving forward, especially if you're a fan or an angler that loves that 5 fish, biggest 5 bass limit, which I do. The MLF, I tried to watch. I just couldn't do it. I talked to a lot of friends in the industry. I talked to a lot of buddies that follow professional bass fishing, and the opinion's pretty much the same. It was a hard time to follow it. I don't know what a red crest, all this different terminology, and that'll just come with time, but it just doesn't feel right. For some reason, they're lacking on the marketing side to get guys interested or follow. It's very hard to follow what's going on. I don't know who won what at all. I guess Edwin Evers won the championship, whatever that means. And then the FLW Tour, you had some big names that stayed, but for the most part, the FLW Tour is always pay to play. Qualifications weren't as strict to get into the tour, so I never really paid much mind to that side of things. Your top dogs are going to be your top dogs, and you're going to always have a couple newcomers, but for the most part, you got a bunch of struggling anglers trying to get by on the FLW Tour, or guys that have deep pockets that just want a fun hobby. And that's kind of what I saw and viewed the FLW Tour as up to this point. So what we know right now, as of today, the FLW Tour is going to be changed. It's now bought by MLF. There's going to be 150 pros next year. Now, I just looked back on the last tour event, FLW Tour event on Lake Champlain. There was 164 pros. So if there's still 164 guys that want to compete, and it's 150 boat field, they're going to lose 14 guys. But then there's also people that qualified for the tour through the Costa, the FLW Costa Opens this year. Myself being one of them. This is my third year fishing the Costas, and this is my third year actually qualifying for the tour. The last 2 years I turned it down, it just wasn't worth it in my mind. And I did the math, and I'm still not sure if it's worth it. Here's what I'm thinking is going to happen. I could be totally wrong, but just follow me here. The Bassmaster Elite Series, they're now competing against the MLF, which is now the FLW, right? So you have MLF and you have the Elite Series. The Bassmaster Elite Series, I'm sure, want to grab a bunch of the big name guys on the FLW Tour. Your Scott Martins, your Brian Thrifts, David Dudleys, the top dudes on tour. And MLF probably wants them as well. But I'm betting some of these guys are not happy with the MLF format. And I think there's some deals, behind the scene deals being made right now for some of the top big name guys on the FLW Tour to either come to the MLF side, straight in, no qualifications, you're in, or go over to the Elite Series side. Again, no qualifications, straight in, you're in. I think that's what we're going to see here in the next couple of weeks. Simply because they're not going to just let those big names sit there for chance. If they continue, I don't know if they're going to just fish the FLW Tour and try to qualify for the MLF. From a business standpoint, that doesn't make sense. I think there's deals being made. Like I said, I could be totally wrong. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about some of the main big players that are still left on the FLW Tour side? Are they getting invites or not? It'll be interesting to find out. So there's a lot of uncertainty moving forward into next year still. I qualified for the FLW Costa Championship, which will happen here at the end of the month. And I was told, starting this season, that we have a shot at making the FLW Cup through the Costa Opens. So I did everything in my power to make the championship, which I did, which I thought was going to allow me the chance to fish the Cup for next year. According to some of the articles I'm reading, there isn't going to be a Cup. So I'm not sure what I'm fishing for besides just a cash prize down here on Lake Cumberland in a couple of weeks. That's interesting. I mean, part of the whole excitement was going down to this tournament hoping that you have a shot at making the Cup through this event. I'm not sure how that's going to look for next year. Questions need to be answered here in the next couple of weeks. I'm going regardless, but I already talked to a person this morning who may drop out because there's no incentive for the Cup. They're pretty upset about this. And I am too. I just need to wait for some more answers to see what's going to happen. I also qualified for the BFL Regional, which is going to actually be next week on the Potomac. And there's a chance to make the All-American through that. Now, on the lower levels, the BFLs and the Opens for the FLW, they're going to pretty much stay the same. The format's going to be your 5 biggest fish. I don't see that changing. But I'm not sure if there's going to be an All-American. I'm assuming there is. But one of the cool things about going to the All-American was another shot at the FLW Cup. So with no Cup and just what they're saying is an Angler of the Year race, I'm not sure how all that fits in. Now here's something interesting about the new FLW tour that's going to be taking place next year. Now, just reading between the lines and some of the rumors that I've heard, I think it's like a 5 or 6 day format for this new tour with 1 day of practice, I believe. At least that's what I'm hearing. So it's not like they extended the tour and you're gonna have, 3, 4, 5 days of practice, so you're investing, 2 weeks of your time. I believe it's just 1 day of practice. That's what I heard. So it's not confirmed. Those are just some of the rumors. But I have some pretty good sources in the industry where I'm getting some of this feedback. So I wanted to kind of let you guys know that's what the thought process is right now. As a fan, do I like the MLF format? No. But as an angler, could I see myself doing that format and fishing, competing that way? I think so. I don't think I would have a problem. I think it would be a very cool experience fishing that circuit. But I don't know if that's a sustainable route. And if you're building your future on one organization or the other, man, that's still a tough call to this day. I don't think you can make a firm decision about what's going to happen moving forward. Bass is always going to be around, but what's going to happen to MLF? Is it going to get stronger? Are the sponsorship dollars going to come in? Will they make money? Will it be sustainable? Those are everything. Those are just, it's hard to tell. So on the BFL and the Costa Open side, they did lower the entry fees. I think they lowered it by $200 on the Open and $100 in the BFL. Numbers were down across the board in both the Opens as well as the BFLs this year because of the higher amounts. But I think part of that was they wanted to show a little bit more higher profits for this buyout. That could be one of the reasons why they upped it so much, and it upset a lot of people. They're dropping the prices now and make it a little bit more reasonable, but I mean, $200, what is that? Is that going to really change anyone's, or is that going to make more people want to fish because they thought they didn't want to do it? Because it was more out of the principle, I think, why a lot of guys didn't fish. It wasn't because they couldn't afford an extra $200. I mean, what's $100? Or, take a BFL. It's a tank of gas in your boat for the day. It's a tackle warehouse order of spinner baits or jerk baits, or heck, I mean, 4 Alabama rigs is $100 nowadays. So I don't think that's the case. It was more of just them upping the entry fees without really increasing the payout is what upset a lot of people this year. So perhaps there's going to be more anglers wanting to fish the FLW Costas as well as the BFLs for next year. So I'm still confused about my future and what I want to do from a tournament scene for next year. I'm going to lay out some of the options that I see, and I want to get your guys' opinions and your thoughts on what you think, what direction perhaps I should go. So right now I basically have 4 options. Option 1 is to just continue what I'm doing now. That is, fish the what they call the FLW Costas and the BFLs, the Northeast BFLs. So what I've been doing for the last 3 years. The problem with that is, and I fished some team tournaments. I think I fished, where was it, 18 events this past year. And I only missed 2 checks in those 18 events. And those tournaments ranged from team events to BFLs to the Costa Series, all across the board. So I rarely miss a check, but I don't make money, if that makes sense. Like I don't come out ahead, as the amount of time I put in traveling and practicing and fuel and all the expenses, I'd probably be better off taking that energy and focusing on fishing at a higher level where it's more risk, higher entry fees, but a little bit better payout, but not really. We're going to go over those numbers as well. I love the competition. I do. I would go nuts if I probably didn't have a tournament to look forward to. if I had just fun fishing and guide trips to look forward to, I don't know how I would feel about that. I'm really motivated when I know I have a big event coming up. My brain's constantly working. You know, I'm looking at information, I'm looking at different baits, looking at different techniques. When I don't have that to stimulate my mind, you know, for the next couple weeks, thinking of a big event, you know, I'm kind of like, I guess we'll go out fishing again. We'll head down to the Chesapeake Bay with Eric. It's not as fun for me. So I do enjoy the competition. The Opens and the BFLs, as far as a financial standpoint, doesn't make sense. As far as getting awesome content out, growing the YouTube channel, just having fun, competing, hanging out with my buddies, I mean, you can't really put a price on that either. So if you enjoy doing it, which I do, you know, I had a lot of people, because last year I put out a video about is it worth it, and you know, we had some people question, well, you know, why are you fishing that again this year? We went through the numbers, it didn't make sense. Well, that's why, because I just enjoy doing it. So that's one option. The second option is fish the Bassmaster Opens. So the Bassmaster Opens would allow me to possibly qualify for the Bassmaster Elite Series. There's going to be 4 events. They're not in the best places across the country that would suit my style, but I think it'd be fun and could be a possibility to take that chance. They start out in Florida in January, go to a lake in Tennessee, then we're up on Oneida, and then down on Lake Hartwell to finish the season. And if you do it right, and you can stay in contention for all 4 events, you will qualify for the Elite Series, which would be pretty cool. That might be an option that I take. That might be a route that I go to. You know, professional bass fishing is an extremely interesting way to make a living, and at that level, there's a lot that goes on, more than you can imagine. I don't even know where to start with some of the stories, some of the things that, you know, as far as what it takes to compete at that level, but it's a whole different breed than, you know, say fishing the Opens or fishing the BFLs. And so there's a big commitment from that aspect. Some of you guys may know I fished the Bassmaster Elite Series years ago. I fished in 2011 and 2012 until I ran out of money. At that time, the economy wasn't the greatest, and sponsorship was very hard. I actually had a friend of mine sponsor me for the first year, and then the second year it was more of a loan, and it was just real difficult. It was awesome fishing against all the big names, going across the country, but at that time I was not ready to compete against those guys. I mean, I held my own. My best finish was 13th in an Elite Series event on Wheeler Lake down in Alabama, and did well in a few other events. Had some really good day ones. Didn't make the right adjustments. But keep in mind, 2 years prior, I was a kid from Wisconsin that tried to fish for walleyes. That's all I did. I honestly, and I told this story, you know, to people in the past, and I honestly did not know what a brush hog or Gary Yamamoto, what a Senko was in 2007, 2008. So 2 years prior to qualifying through the Opens, having no idea what I was doing, I was fishing on the Bassmaster Elite Series. I mean, I never punched in my life. I probably never threw a Carolina rig in my life. The equipment I had at the time, you would laugh. You know how I like all my nice fancy Legend St. Croix Extremes and everything precise and lined up, and I have a great system now, but back in the day, man, you would have laughed if you would have saw some of the $30 spinning reels and $30 bait casters I had for equipment that first year or two on the Elite Series. It was scary. It was scary how I made it somewhat work until the money ran out. But I'd love to get back to that. I think I'm ready now as an angler as far as my experience goes. I think I could do some damage on tour. And so that would be an option. That would definitely be an option for me. Third option, because I did qualify in points this year in the Coastas to fish the tour next year, is fish the new FLW MLF tour. What does that entail? So they're taking 150 guys next year. There was 164 that fished on the tour last year. So some are going to drop out. The newer guys are going to come in. Like I said, that theory of some of the big names might be leaving, that could happen. So there's going to be some new faces on the tour, and it's a whole different format than most, that people are not used to fishing. But I'm trying to run the numbers here. Without sponsorship, it does not make any sense. So there's probably going to be 7 events. $5,000 a piece to enter, that's 35 grand. Let's just say in the low end, $2,000 in expenses. So that's 14,000. This doesn't include your fishing tackle, your gear, your boat, or your truck. That's hoping you have all that together. So it's going to cost you 49 grand, let's say $50,000 to fish the tour next year if I do not find some type of sponsorship. Could I find 50,000? Maybe. I'd have to get on it real soon, and time's running out because the first event starts in January. So with that being said, if you cash a check in all 7 events, they pay down 75 spots. So half the field is going to get paid. Do I like my chances with that? With the way I approach tournaments now and my thought process and the way I practice, I do like that. Because if I ain't on a winning pattern, I know when to fall back. I know when it's not going to be my time for that event, and I can still get paid. But I mean, ask a lot of these guys going into the tour last year, and their goal was, I think I can cash a check in every event. Doesn't always happen. So if it did happen, and I was fortunate enough to cash a check in every single event, I would make $70,000. After expenses, I make 20 grand. So that doesn't make sense. Now, if I had sponsorship and I had the tour paid for and I could pull 70 grand between January and June fishing, that'd be awesome. We can make that work. But I'm not going to be able to do it without sponsorship. It just wouldn't make sense. Sure, you could win 100 grand for first place, but out of 150 guys, only 7 people are going to win that 100,000. You win that definitely helps offset your season. But I'm going to need to have some sponsorship in order to do that. So, do I pull the trigger on that? I don't know. I don't know what to do. So the last option I have, something that I'm seriously looking into, is only what you call cherry pick tournaments, whether it be single events or team tournaments. I'm kind of leaning right now towards that route, but I'm not, not 100% committed either way. But I think it would be really, really fun to pick some major tournaments on bodies of water that I love to fish. So for me, I would love to enter any and everything that has a decent payout up on Lake Ontario and the St. Lawrence River for next year. And there's some big team events. There's some, that still includes some BFLs that'll be up there. That includes some Costas. But I just won't fish the whole series. And I'll probably do a bunch of weekend stuff when there's not a big event up there right here at home on the Chesapeake Bay. So I may still jump into some of these BFLs, just not all of them. I think there's some good money to be made doing the team events, and I'm confident that I can compete pretty well, especially on Lake Ontario and the St. Lawrence River, and I just enjoy fishing there. I have fun. It's I'm going down the Potomac in a couple days. We start practice. The bite sucks. The grass is gone. The cover's gone. I don't know if it's snakeheads or a bass virus or the bass just are hiding under the hydrilla mats. I don't know what's going on with the Potomac, but it's not fun to fish. It's going to be a mentally hard place to fish. And I love that. It'll set up fine for me for the tournament, but it's not fun. It's not fun to get up that morning knowing that you really can't set a hook on a fish today, and you're just trying to find an area where you might get a bite or two. I'd rather spend my time up north where I enjoy it a lot more. Well, there you go. No idea what to do for next year. I'm sure in the next couple of weeks they're gonna have a little bit better idea of where the tour is actually gonna go, what the actual fees are gonna be, what does the Costas look like for next year? Is there going to be some type of cup, or what happens to me when I go down to Cumberland? What's gonna happen to the top guys? Are they gonna be able to fish for something above and beyond just this championship? Those are things that we still need to have some answers for, so for moving into next year to be able to make a decision. But it's gotta happen quick. I mean, this winter, I know it's gonna fly by, and we're gonna be fishing again here in the spring real soon. And from a tournament standpoint, it's difficult to get everything lined up, to get your sponsorships lined up, to get your boat lined up, your equipment lined up, to be able to get out on the road here in January, you know, 3 months away, and make it happen. That's going to be a challenge. So we need some answers quick, guys. FLW, MLF, questions need to be answered. I still don't know what to do. I want to know in the comments below. Help me out. First of all, let me know what you think about this whole different situation with the tours combining. And also, what 4 options do you think I should go with? Do I just continue the BFL Costa Opens? Do I fish the new FLW MLF Tour? Do we go to the Bassmaster Opens? Or do we just go cherry pick a bunch of tournaments up on Lake Ontario, Thousand Islands, just have fun? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below, and as always, until next time, guys, we'll see you on the water.